All right. Hello, everyone. You're tuning in to the webcast brought to you by Corporate Citizenship in Bursa, Malaysia. The topic we are going to cover today is on board diversity. Before we begin, allow me to share a little bit about this webcast. This webcast is brought to you by Bursa, Malaysia as part of its program to strengthen knowledge on corporate sustainability and governance for the long-term success of Malaysian companies. My name is Junis, and I'm the Director for Southeast Asia Corporate Citizenship, and we specialize in sustainability and corporate responsibility matters, and we're proud to be the knowledge partner to Bursa Malaysia. A quick outline of what we will cover today in this webcast. Firstly, we will talk about presenting the case for diversity and why it matters. Secondly, we will talk a little bit about achieving the right balance toward diversity. And the third segment, we will talk about what can stakeholders do when we're looking forward towards achieving board diversity. So as mentioned earlier, about this topic on board diversity, this has been a topic of growing interest within boards today. And not surprising, it is often a challenging one for companies to adopt. Before we begin, allow me to define what diversity sets out to achieve. Diversity within the corporate room means having a range of many people that are different from each other. And board diversity aims to cultivate a broad spectrum of demographic attributes and characteristics in the boardroom. There is, however, no uniform definition of board diversity. And traditionally speaking, one can consider factors such as age, race, gender, educational background, and professional qualifications of the directors to make the board less homogeneous. Some may also interpret board diversity by taking into account such less tangible factors such as life experience and personal attributes. As you can see here, this is a study done by INSEAD, and it looks into how boards will look like in the next 10 years. And one of the things that it found was that among the most significant emerging trends for companies in the next 10 years is that boards will be much more diverse than it is today. The most obvious aspect of this is that more females will appear in boards, but also the variance in terms of age, background, experience, and expertise is expected to be much more prominent in the years to come. There are many reasons why board diversity matters in organizations today. Company boards featuring greater diversity for women, for example, have shown to offer a much broader range of insights. It helps sharpen competitiveness and helps to identify potential risks in a fast-changing business world. Under Bursa Malaysia's latest code of governance, Bursa Malaysia's latest code of corporate governance guide, the practice notes that sets out to achieve these things are as follows. In practice note 4.4, the appointment of board and senior management are based on objective criteria, merits, and with due regard for diversity in terms of skills, experience, age, cultural background, and gender. And in practice note 4.5, the board discloses in its annual report the company's policies on gender diversity, its targets, and measures to achieve these targets. For large companies, for example, this means that the board must have at least 30% of women directors. You can find more about this in its Code of Corporate Governance Guide, and that's available online. Now let's move on quickly to the topic in terms of how board diversity is doing worldwide. As you can see here, this is a slide that shows progress of women on boards by country. This study was done, started in 2015 and carried on in 2016 and 2017. And as you can see here, countries such as Norway, the UK, Australia, Canada, US, and New Zealand have pretty progressive progress in terms of how women are represented in the boards today. However, if you look at what's happening closer to home, you'll find that women represented on boards is significantly less than our European and American counterparts. Now, this is consistent to what we're seeing on the regulatory front as well. Increasingly in Asia, we see the trend going upward, meaning to say there are a lot more representatives of women on boards today. However, as you can see in these 4 different stock exchanges in the market, in the region here, the types of regulation that's happening is quite different. Essentially, the stock exchanges have taken a strong stance with getting companies to look at diversity at the top most seriously. But diversity here is being addressed in two different fronts. Firstly, gender diversity, and secondly, the makeup and tenure of independent directors. The regional stock exchanges here have recognized the long-term benefits to companies having a diverse makeup of directors at the top. And so we are seeing very progressive movements by exchanges to ensure that diversity is continuously being internalized into governance structures in companies today. So here, for example, for Bursa Malaysia, under gender diversity, there is already a quota in which large companies should have at least 30% of women. However, when you look at the other stock exchanges around, they have different types of policies and recommendations for their public listed companies within their market. And when it comes to independent directors, again, you see a variation of the way the stock exchanges are recommending these PLCs to take their stand towards having more independent directors being represented on their board. And so without further ado, I'm delighted to be joined by my two very qualified leaders, thought leaders in this topic of board diversity. Thankfully, we also achieved a very nice gender balance here. I'm very pleased to have Sunita Rajakumar and Johan Raslan who are veterans in the corporate field and who are actually on boards as independent directors themselves. Sunita and Johan, would you like to say a hello to our audiences?
Hi, everyone. I'm an independent chairperson of two listed companies on Bursa Malaysia. I sit on the board of 3 in total and an independent director at an insurance company.
Thank you, Sunita.
And hi, everybody. I'm Johan, and I'm a former chairman of PwC Malaysia. I'm now an independent director on 2 listed companies in Malaysia. I used to be on a bank board as well, which was listed, and I also helped the central bank with board training for in the area of corporate governance as well.
Thank you. Great. Welcome on board, both of you. All right, let's move on to the main topic at hand now. So before I start, let me introduce myself. I'm Junice Yeo, and as I mentioned before, I'm the Director for Corporate Citizenship in Southeast Asia. All right, without further ado, let's start. So the first segment is we're going to cover the case for board diversity. Basically, we are going to explore the relationship between board diversity and business performance, as well as to clarify a little bit about the challenges when it comes to people thinking that board diversity also means a trade-off with meritocracy. Perhaps I can start with the first question. Do you think there is a relationship between board diversity and business performance?
Well, there's a lot of research which has shown that there's a correlation between diversity on boards and both profitability and value creation. This correlation is strongest with the executive team or the C-suite. There is also some correlation with ethnic and cultural diversity. And I think all of this is because companies with boards and management teams which most closely resemble their customers, suppliers, talent, or workforce are naturally more likely to make decisions which better resonate with what their customers, suppliers, or talent need. If better performing companies are a result of better strategies, which in turn are a result of better decisions made by the board and management team, and such better decisions are an outcome of a better decision-making process, then having more intelligent, capable, qualified, experienced voices contributing towards a discussion can only lend towards a more informed decision.
Right. And what about you, Johan? What do you think with regards to this relationship between business and board diversity?
Well, I agree. There is a lot more studies coming up in the matter. MSCI did a study in 2015, and they showed that companies with strong female leadership deliver 36% more return on equity. This is across a number of countries. And strong female leadership, the way they define that is 3 or more female directors or a female CEO and at least one female board member. MSCI also showed that companies with bottom quartile gender diversity, so kind of the worst ones, are 24% more likely to be hit by corporate governance scandals, which none of us want, obviously. And then there's McKinsey as well, quite a famous study entitled Diversity Matters. And that shows that companies in the top quartile for gender diversity are 15% more likely to have financial returns above the respective national industry median.
So this basically goes to show that board diversity actually not only enhances performance, it also prevents risks when it comes to scandals, I would say. And I wonder what kind of scandals that would be.
Well, we've no shortage of corporate scandals anywhere in the country. Look,
Yeah.
you should just see the latest one, Carillion in the UK, for example. You know, they are everywhere if you don't have good governance.
Yes, that's true. So one of the things that many critics have expressed when it comes to the topic of board diversity is that meritocracy, which obviously means hiring the best, based on the best, and diversity are basically trade-offs, meaning to say you cannot have one or the other. You cannot have one and the other. You have to have one or the other. What is your take on this matter?
Well, this seems to imply that merit and diversity are mutually exclusive, that you can't have one without.
Yeah.
So I'm resistant to a stereotype because you can have a board appointed by merit comprising one gender which has diverse backgrounds and views. But in the national context, let's take a look at this. If you consider that many or the majority of the top performing graduates are women, that women have proven they are articulate, they can deliver above expectations, they bring considerable value to a business, they're comfortable with ambiguity, then it's only logical and natural that if we do have the best interest of the company in mind, we should be reaching out to them, making it easier for our firms with valuable assets or their high performers to stay in the organization instead of having to choose between other priorities. We should be developing a clear career progression for them, including being promoted to the C-suite and to the board of directors. There is also a cultural aspect to this discussion. I have visited homes where a drink is served to my husband, but not to me. I know of families where the bulk or of all of the wealth was inherited by the son in the family, not the daughter. Just half a century ago, girls below the age of consent were being married off. And in some places, this is still happening. So I think it's important that we recognize that we are in a transition where an increasing number of women who are educated, qualified, capable, talented, experienced, they're stepping up and they're wanting to contribute towards national growth or to earn for their family. There are plenty of extremely qualified and capable, passionate, committed women who would be a great asset on any board. And any company which does not have access to such a network might think that they are settling. But whereas the real solution should be that they should be widening the search.
Yes. Do you think, if you don't mind me just holding on that point, do you think it's partly because women themselves are not confident enough to apply for the top jobs?
Well, sure, definitely. And I think further on in this podcast, we're going to be talking about practical advice as to what works. But yes, definitely, when you're coming across a cultural transition like this, it is men and women alike that need to change their minds about new expectations.
Johan, what about you? What is your point on this?
Well, I also disagree that meritocracy and diversity are trade-offs. I think meritocracy comes together with diversity, in fact, probably leads to more diversity. That's because I've actually seen boards look more seriously into making themselves more diverse. My country, Sinatra's country, is Malaysia, part of ASEAN. We are fortunate in Malaysia and have large numbers of women professionals, fields which are very much sought after for boards, especially accountancy, financial services, and the law. Engineering, that are used to the top companies, it will soon, I'm sure, follow as well, because demographics that Sunita referred to is seeing to that. So long as boards are serious about how they go about selecting directors, I think they'll find the people they want and the women they want. Women can also underperform, right? Just as much as men. We're all human beings. But boards need to put the work into the selection process and do that selection well, just like with the same kind of rigor that they will put into, selecting a vice president, a managing director, etc. Above all, by conducting serious and proper interviewing.
Yeah.
Now, when I talk to directors in the training I conduct for bank directors, I find that banks are more and more interviewing very rigorously. And we're finding that banks are actually turning down people if they fail an interview. And just 10 years ago, this would be really unheard of, but it's happening now. So things are moving very fast.
Yes, that is true. I do agree. Sometimes it helps to have policies in place in a way so that you can institutionalize such a approach in a way, rather than to have them ad hoc, I would say. Okay, great. Well, you are tuning into the webcast on why board diversity matters. In the next segment, we will be discussing with Sunita and Johan more about their views on translating diversity into practice. So stay tuned.